Hello and welcome to our Teaching for Success inclusive podcast series. I'm your host, Rosa Kemirembe. Our series is built on the belief that every child, no matter their background or ability, deserves a safe, supportive, and successful learning environment. Today, that belief is tested and has been tested by tragedy. Before we begin, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the families of those who lost their precious children in the horrific attack at the daycare in Gaba, Uganda. To the parents, siblings, grandparents, and the entire school community, we mourn with you. No words can ease such pain, but we stand with you in your grief and in the demand for change. Today, we're going to talk about the murder of 4 beautiful children in a daycare in Gaba, Uganda. I will not comment on the suspect or the reason for their alleged actions. That is for the courts to determine. But I would like to talk about policies that can prevent such incidents from happening, and crucially, how these policies must be inclusive of all children, including those with disabilities, different learning needs, or medical conditions. The safety of all humans, and more especially all children, is paramount. This incident is one you would expect to hear about in North America, as over the years there have been several such tragedies, but not in Uganda, not in our country. We have always felt that our schools are sanctuaries. This event has shattered this illusion. The Ministry of Education and the police should focus not only on bringing the murderer to book, but should also be talking about how we can all keep our students safe, every one of them, regardless of whether they can run fast, they have disabilities, whether they can follow verbal commands or not, or stay silent for long periods when there is danger. Justice after the fact does not bring back a single child. But prevention is what we need to work towards. We need school safety, and this must include every single child. In many schools around the world, there are comprehensive school policies regarding health and safety issues. These are not just documents filed away. They're practiced, they're drilled, they become muscle memory. But here is where inclusion becomes critical. A standard lockdown drill may terrify a child with a loud alarm and terrifies them, especially if they have sensory processing issues. A child who uses a wheelchair cannot hide under a desk, and a child who's non-speaking cannot shout for help. So when we talk about safety, we must talk about inclusive safety. Let me walk you through some of the most critical safety protocols that need to be adopted in every school in Uganda with inclusive adaptations. First of all, we have a fire drill. In many countries, schools are required to hold fire drills at least 6 times per year. Children learn to line up quietly, exit the building, and gather at a safe assembly point. For children with mobility challenges, there must be evacuation chairs or designated helpers. For children who are neurodivergent, social stories and practice sessions reduce fear. Inclusion means no child is left behind. Secondly, we have hold and secure. That's the protocol. This is used when there is danger in the vicinity of the school. For example, a police chase nearby, a wild animal on the loose. In a hold and secure, all students come inside the classrooms. Classroom doors are locked, but teaching continues. Window blinds are closed. Exterior doors are locked. For children who may not understand why they cannot go outside, teachers need visual cues, simple language, and calming support. Thirdly, we have a lockdown. This is when danger is inside the school and there's an intruder or an active attacker. In a lockdown, students and teachers need to move to a safe area in their classroom. They need to be in their classroom, not outside. They need to lock the doors, make sure that all the kids are are inside the classroom. It doesn't matter whether the classroom is that particular child's or not. They need to look out for any kids in the washroom and train kids. If you hear this signal, you know that there's an attacker in the school. You need to run to the nearest classroom. Move out of sight lines and remain absolutely silent. But what about a child who cannot stay silent due to a tic disorder or a child who cannot move quickly? Inclusive planning means pre-assigning helpers at the beginning of the school year, using noise-reducing headphones and practicing adapted silence games. Every child deserves a plan. There are other variations: shelter in place for chemical spills, evacuation for bomb threats, but these three, the fire drill, hold and secure, and a lockdown, all those three protocols are the foundation. And they must be practiced inclusively so that children with disabilities are not left to fend for themselves. Now let's talk about the physical environment of a school. Policies are useless if the building itself excludes certain children from safety. We need gates to remain locked. The main entrance of a school should never be left open and unattended. But the locking system must also allow for easy exit by all in case children and staff need to be evacuated, especially those in wheelchairs, those who might have other disabilities or are neurodivergent. No-go zones for non-staff. This includes parents. A barrier, a door, a reception area, a gate between the front office and the classroom wings protects everyone. But we must ensure that children as well with medical needs, for example, a child who needs a parent to administer insulin, have a safe, controlled way to meet caregivers without compromising overall security. Okay? And again, because not all schools are in one building, some schools, the classroom doors open to the outside of the school. So in those cases, classroom doors should always be locked. If a kid has gone to the washroom, you need to tell them to knock hard on the door when they come back. You should have a system of attendance in your classrooms whereby if a student has gone to the washroom, it is recorded, or they put their names on a magnet, and the magnet is put under the label washroom, so you know who is in the school, in your classroom or outside of the classroom, and where they've gone. Have they gone to the office? Have they gone to the washroom? Are they outside? Are they in the library? You need to know where your students are for their own safety. All doors should be locked during school hours. This includes classroom doors. Locked doors save lives. But what about the child who cannot open a heavy door in an emergency or a stiff door? Okay? Inclusive design means doors that lock from the inside are easy to open. Okay? And teachers must know exactly which children need assistance unlocking or exiting or entering the classroom. Excuse me. Windows should have blinds or frosted film or curtains, so an intruder cannot see inside. But for children who need natural light or visual cues to regulate, we can use adjustable blinds or curtains or strategic placements of the children when there's danger inside of the school. Inclusion is not about making perfect choices. It's about making thoughtful choices for every single child. Now, some will say these are too difficult for children to learn, especially if they're in daycare or kindergarten. They are too young to understand lockdowns. Others will say, what about children with intellectual disabilities or who are neurodivergent? I respectfully disagree with both objections. Children as young as 2 can learn simple, non-frightening responses if we adapt for inclusion. And remember, you need to have enough staff for the younger children who are 1 or 2 years old who are not able to follow such instructions. You can teach the children with games like Quiet Mouse. For children who cannot stay still, we can teach them stay in a safe corner where gentle movement is allowed. For children who make sounds involuntarily or who have tics, we do not punish. We place them in a room with white noise or in a separate place. For children who need visual schedules, we use picture cards showing each step of the drill that you're going to be practicing in your school. Door closed, lights off, quiet mouth, safe body. In countries that have experienced school shootings, even kindergarteners practice these drills, and children with disabilities practice adapted versions. It is not traumatizing if it's done with care, calm voices, and inclusion at the center. And remember, if you're going through an attack or there's an intruder in your school, you as a teacher have to remember to be calm, because if you're not calm, your students will not be calm and they will be putting themselves and you in danger. What is traumatizing is being unprepared as a school, or being prepared only for the typical child, leaving others behind. Teachers and administrators must also practice inclusive responses. They must know which child needs physical assistance during a lockdown, which child may have a seizure because they're frightened, which child cannot understand verbal commands and needs a picture board. A school that practices inclusion saves all children's lives. So today, I call upon the Ministry of Education and school owners, head teachers, and parents. Do not wait for another tragedy to happen. Do not let the memory of these 4 innocent children fade before action is taken. But I also call on you to make safety inclusive by design. A lockdown plan that does not work for a child in a wheelchair is not a plan. A drill that terrifies a kid with autism is not a drill. A school that protects only some children and not others is not a safe school. You do not need millions of shillings to make your school safe. All you need is locks for your doors, keys, practice drills, training of teachers, and the will to change and the commitment to include every child. To every school listening, start tomorrow. Not next week, not next month, not next term. Lock your gates, lock your classroom doors, practice inclusive silence drills. Get those curtains in the windows or blinds. Teach your teachers to ask, what does each child need to stay safe? And for the love of all, stop letting non-staff members wander freely through your school, even if they are parents. Remember, safety that is not inclusive is not safety at all. And our deepest condolences remain with the families of the daycare in Gaba, the school community, and a nation that must now do better for every single child. This is Rosa Kemerembe signing off. Thank you for listening to Teaching for Success Inclusive Podcast Series. Stay safe and protect our children.